Good morning. Or perhaps you're watching this in the evening or the afternoon or overnight, as so many new mums and dads do tune into their phone and video and all sorts of things at those other times. So just want to check in if anyone is actually online, then can you just let me know that you can hear me. Just type in a little into the chat box that you can hear me, please, so that I know that my audio is working. There should be an area where you can type that in. I'm not too sure. Let me just, sorry about my finger in front of this. Here, let me just see if we can do, I don't have a flash, I don't want a flash, but I want to see what your comments are, because sometimes that doesn't come up. So let me do this. If I just say hello. Okay, so that's a comment, so hopefully underneath that I'll be able to see. Anyway, this morning, if you're tuning in, or whenever it is that you're tuning in, like I said, I'm going to talk about how on earth do you choose a formula for your baby. I wrote a blog post after an article came out in the Independent last week, and because I have a whole chapter in my book, Sprout Right, which you can see behind me on this side. I'm mirrored in this, so sometimes I get a bit backwards. In my book, Sprout Right, then I have a whole chapter on infant formula and baby formula. How do you choose one? What's the best one? I get asked that all the time. What on earth, how do I choose a formula for my baby? So I wanted to run through a few of those things and bring up a little bit of information that was in that article in the Independent. You'll find that link on sproutright.com in the blog. And that takes you to a site that has done some investigation on what's the cleanest, what's the safest, because there was a lot of heavy metals that were found in formulas. There was contaminants found in formulas, and the worst thing a parent could ever hear after you've been giving your baby formula for a certain period of time and it's trusted and it's working, is that all of a sudden it has arsenic or lead or mercury or cadmium or something like that in it. And that is a parent's worst nightmare, I think. Just as years ago, because my children are a bit older, then we had the whole BPA situation where those trusted bottles that we all bought to feed our babies whatever we were putting in it, from water to breast milk to formula to anything like that. We had that situation where all of a sudden we've been warming those bottles, the BPA is transferring. We really don't want to ever give our children anything that's going to harm them, and then found out about all of this toxicity and everything like that was in the bottles, in the plastic, in the ice cube trays that certain people were using to make their own baby food. So it was a very, very tricky situation. So a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more understanding, knowing what's going on out there. It's very important to stay abreast of all of this. So again, go to sproutright.com on the blog there, and then you'll be able to find that information. You can go and find your particular formula that you're offering your baby and see where it ranks up. So let's start with, how do you choose a formula when you go into supermarket, when you're looking online? Let's say that you know even beforehand that breastfeeding is not either going to be an option for you, or you're going to need to supplement, and it's a quick decision because something's happened during labor and delivery, or you just don't know. So you need to be a bit informed. Most of the time when you're in the hospital, they've got formulas there. They're going to offer your baby a formula, and you're going to just sort of see what happens with that particular formula. Once you get home and then you're able to choose the formula, then you've got a bit more, you need to do a little bit more research. Sometimes parents decide to stay on the same formula with their baby because they know that it's worked, or their baby seems to be okay. There are a lot of situations where I see babies that have formula in the first 24 hours after birth. Perhaps they're born by C-section, perhaps there's antibiotics involved. Anything like that compromises the immune system can sometimes set babies up for being more sensitive to dairy. That doesn't mean flip to a soy formula, sadly, because they seem to have just as much problem with that as they do the dairy. So soy and dairy, if there's an issue, then sometimes that seems to be something that is, it seems to go hand in hand for some particular reason, even though they're not the same thing. I think it's just the general oversensitivity of the immune system and of the gut. So choosing a formula really comes down to the ingredients as far as I'm concerned. In my book, I go through, there's a whole chapter on formula. I go through some of the ingredients that you really need to look out for. So just to mention a few would be the type of sweetener that has gone into your, or sweetener, or I'll call it a carbohydrate, because what happens when milk is taken in order to create an infant formula, then the lactose and the whey or the protein is split. So then the reason why on the label of your infant formula you have lactose, you have corn syrup, you have sucrose, you have glucose, whatever that is because it's important for there to be carbohydrate. Your baby needs to have carbohydrate in that formula. And what they do is when they put in the non-fat milk solids, the whey or anything like that, then there also needs to be that carbohydrate put back in again. Most formulas will have lactose in them. And a lot of people think, oh gosh, I can't do lactose with my baby because I'm lactose intolerant, so that's not going to fly. There is lactose in breast milk. The difference with formula versus breast milk is the lactose that's in breast milk. Also, swiftly behind it comes lactase. Lactase is the digestive enzyme that digests lactose. So when you buy Lactaid, when you buy lactose-free milk, that just means that there has been that enzyme added in there, or they've partitioned it, and then there's a bit of a different situation going on there. So in a situation where a baby is having a formula and they're really gassy and it's not sitting well with them, more in the stomach, they're spit up and all of those kind of things. You can see them, they're kind of wiggling and squiggling and all sorts of things are going on, and it's just not sitting well with them. That can be a situation called lactose overload. That doesn't necessarily mean that your baby is lactose intolerant. That does happen. It's quite rare. It's a very small percentage of babies that are lactose intolerant. However, this lactose overload is a really big problem for a lot of babies. And what happens, when they're drinking their formula, they get a lot of lactose at the same time, and it's challenging for the gut to keep up producing enough lactase to digest that. And then they get gassy, they're uncomfortable, they're wiggling and squiggling, and they're not necessarily throwing up, but they're spitting up and situations like that. So read the can, read online. What is it that has lactose in it? You'll find a lot of the sensitive formulas or formulas for sensitive babies. Those ones have corn syrup in them in some cases, sucrose in other cases. Brown rice syrup is one, not necessarily a sensitive one. The baby's only is sweetened with brown rice syrup, a lower glycemic index. Sweetener and carbohydrate that's going in there, which means that their blood sugar doesn't go up really quick and then start to crash again. So number one would be the sweetener that you're looking at. Number two ingredient that you're looking at is the type of fat that's gone in there. Babies can become very constipated when they are on formula. And there can also be this similar situation in breastfeeding, but we go at it a little bit different. I'm just going to kind of stick a little bit more to the formula today. So with that constipation, there's an oil called palm Olein oil, which is known to potentially cause constipation in babies. So making sure that you're aware and that you look on the label, actually it quite often says palm Olein oil or another type of oil. So depends, they sort of covering themselves just in case there's a shortage of ingredients is my understanding of that. So with the palm Olein oil, if that says that on the label, then that may be something that you switch up. Not every brand has palm Olein oil in it. Now in my book, I didn't flag the page, but there are charts in my book that will tell you all about the different formulas. Here we go. Here's one of them. Again, sorry, this is mirrored. So these are, this was an analysis. It was a while ago, but most of them are still fairly similar. So you can go to my book to these pages to kind of have a look at the ingredients. Sorry, I'm terrible at getting this mirrored right. So there's about 4 or 5 pages about all of the different formulas in there, and deciding what it is that you're going to offer to your baby. So if you offer your baby any type of formula and it's not working, you're seeing them spit up, that's the number one. If you're seeing your baby spit up after they've had their formula, or a little bit later, or you're seeing projectile vomiting. I do see that in breastfed babies too, because mom's having dairy and it's not sitting right with baby either. So if it isn't working, if they're constipated, rather than going and giving them laxatives and all kinds of things, change the formula. So many parents think, well, at least I know what we're dealing with, and I think I've kind of got a handle on it by giving my baby laxatives so that they are pooing on a daily basis. Really just change the formula, read the ingredients, go through the chapter in my book, call me, let's have a consultation if that's what's needed, so that your baby, whatever it is that they're ingesting, whatever formula they're having, is sitting well with them. Eczema, skin, what you see on the outside, is also another way of getting a picture about what's going on the inside. Eczema is a situation of not only some allergies, but also inflammation. And when there's inflammation in the body's not working properly. So if you're seeing skin issues, if you're seeing rashes and all of those kind of things, then question the formula. It really is quite important to make sure that you're doing that. Look at the ingredients, as I already said. And then as your baby grows and gets older, you can change formulas, but maybe you don't have to. If you found one that does actually work, then you can stick to that. Now, I've had a specific question. I had an email yesterday from someone who said, I am going back to work. I'm going to have to start to give my baby formula. So what should I use? Tell me, is Earth's Best, let's say, the best one? Now, rather than just blankly saying it's good or it's bad, again, it comes down to the ingredients. So I did a little bit of research about the Earth's Best. Now, with this article that came out of the Independent and linked to that site with all of the information, so I had a look on there. Now, they only had 3 out of 5 stars for the normal Earth's Best product. And what that showed up was that there was some heavy metal toxicity in the Earth's Best, the normal dairy one. Now, the Earth's Best Sensitive had 5 stars, 5 out of 5 stars, because there's this ranking and rating that they've put in for all sorts of formulas. And I'm just bringing up Earth's Best because that's what was asked. There's also Infamil on there. There is Similac. There's Nature's One. There's all of the goat milk formulas, which I do tend to recommend more to clients. Babies tend to do better on the goat's milk than they do on the cow dairy, typically. Not always, but typically they do. And then I noticed some other ingredients that were in there as well, which was quite interesting. So the Earth's Best Sensitive, which is the one that had 5 stars, corn syrup. Now, it is organic, but corn syrup is the number 1 ingredient in there. There is palm olein oil, and then there's also whey as the protein. In the premium dairy product, lactose was number 1, non-fat milk, and then palm olein oil, and then some whey, and that one was the one with the 3 stars. So again, I encourage you to go to the blog and then click through on those links to get to where it does tell you a bit more information about this. It's important that you do your research. Knowledge is power. When you go into purchasing something and handing over your dollars for your baby, knowing that this is the best one that you have found is so important. And once you have done that, and once you've researched that and you're ready to go, then you go and try it and you see how it works. I can't tell you what is the best formula. I can tell you what seems to work better for most of my clients over the years. I've been doing this a really long time, and I will say that the goat's milk formula does tend to sit better with more sensitive babies, babies with skin issues, babies with blood in the stool, babies who are spitting up, all of those kind of things. So there's 2 different brands, and I've listed those in the blog on sproutright.com, which is the one at the top at the moment. So there's Nature's, not Nature's One, that's the dairy formula that ranked actually the highest on in terms of toxicity and ingredients and all of those kind of things. So that was quite a surprise, because I have talked about that for a long time, and I've also recommended that in my book, and have done for a really long time. So that's a product which you can purchase. I put a link in the blog as well that you can purchase. It's from the US, but you do, if you're in Canada, you have to bring that in yourself. So there's two different brands of goat milk formula, a little bit trickier to get a hold of. So there's the Nanny Care or Nanny Goat Milk formula. That's without a doubt my favorite. I've recommended that for probably close to 20 years. And that really has sat well with the most sensitive of babies, even babies who are on Nutramigen and Alimentum, which are pre-digested formulas for babies that are super sensitive. And then there's also the Holle, Holle. It's a German one. I've had many clients order it directly from Germany. I also put a link in on the blog on sproutright.com for Amazon. They are definitely both pricier options, but for some parents, either that's not necessarily as much of a concern, or they're not giving formula all the time, every day, every meal. So when you're just supplementing it, a slightly more expensive formula it's doable because you're not offering it as often. So there's just a little bit of information, a little bit more information about the different formulas as you're choosing them. But remember, organic is always great if it's an option. There are some formulas out there that seem to work better, that don't have the palm Olein oil in it, which tends to cause constipation, as I said, but they're not organic. Some formulas have DHA in them, and years ago that was a really big controversy because it seemed to be a lot of marketing. When you open the can of formula, once you take that lid off, oxidization starts to happen. So I actually recommend keep your formula, keep that powder, keep that in the freezer, because you are preserving a lot more of those nutrients. So as soon as the lid comes off, then everything sort of just starts to not break down or die, but it does lose its effectiveness. So making sure, especially with the fats, making sure that you keep it in the freezer is a great idea. So with those fats, I do actually prefer that rather than having the DHA in the formula, is that you buy one without, which sometimes can make it a bit cheaper, and then you can add in your own fats depending on your baby. Then you can use, this is the Super Nourishing DHA from Genestra. So this is something that I'd probably use for 0 to 3 months or so. In my book, I suggest up to about 6 months, but that research has changed a little bit more lately. There's the DHA EPA vegan option as well. Don't recommend that one quite as much. But then also there's just the cod liver oil forte, which comes in a liquid, and this is tremendous to be giving your baby. Your baby needs a certain amount of milligrams of DHA a day, and they all will provide enough. When anyone purchases anything on sproutright.com, then you get an instant email telling you the dosages and things like that for different ages of your babies and those kind of things. So we've got your back on that front when you purchase from sproutright.com. So adding in your own fats is really actually quite an important thing, because you know that they're getting the right amount. You know when you're offering it to them, and you know that it hasn't oxidized. That's a really important thing for fats when it comes time for that. Now, the other thing that is slightly newer for some formulas is having a probiotic in that formula. Again, I've never been a 2-in-1 shampoo type of person. And when I see all of these extra things going into the formula, I do love the innovation and I love what's happening with that. But sometimes, let's say having DHA in your orange juice, if that's what you're purchasing, it just doesn't go. It just doesn't work. DHA is supposed to come from something that's surrounded by fat. There's no fat in orange juice, let's say, or something that's perhaps in your cereal. So the probiotics is another something that is actually I would prefer that you offer on your own. Let me just reach over and grab the probiotics. Here we go. So this is the HMF Baby F. So this is another Genestra product. I work with a lot of these products for sure when it comes time for, especially for babies. I've used this for a very, very long time. Now this is a very large bottle compared to the HMF Baby B, which is quite small. And the difference is that this has GOS, or galacto-oligosaccharides. So there are a couple of formulas that do also have GOS in them, which again is great. What the GOS does is helps the probiotic to adhere to the intestinal wall. So if you think of the intestines as a tube, let's just say it's like the inside of a straw or something like that, we want the inside of that tube to be completely covered with probiotics. And if there's any little cells or any small areas that are not covered with probiotics, then as any bad bacteria, E. coli, any parasite, anything like that that goes through the intestines or through this straw, if you're using that as a visual, then it can clamp on to the intestinal wall like this. So what the GOS does is it helps the probiotic to clamp on. There's an abundance of GOS in your in breast milk, naturally occurring. So what's trying to happen here is that we're putting more of what's found in breast milk in the formula, which is tremendous. However, it just depends how long that's going to be open for, how long is it's going to last. Are you keeping it in the freezer, your jar in the freezer, your can in the freezer, or not? So the HMF Baby F is imperative for babies. Please, please give your baby HMF Baby F, or if they're formula fed, or Baby B if they're breastfed, because it helps to moderate their immune system tremendously. The studies that have been done with the Baby B and Baby F do show a reduction in allergies by 50%, a reduction in asthma and eczema, a reduction in wheeze, or what they, in the UK, the study was done in the UK, they call that wheeze, so more of the asthma and what's going on in the lungs. If there's something going on there, then what's really happening is that the body is trying to get rid of inflammation through the lungs. The body, if it's pushing it out on the skin, is trying to get rid of inflammation out of the skin. So we want to really be able to support that from inside out. So the Baby F has 10 billion beneficial bacteria of 4 different strains, which have been studied, probably the most to do with allergies and immune health. So at the moment, I'm fighting a bit of a cold. My daughter very kindly brought that home. So I've dosed up. There's a product of 500 billion beneficial bacteria per little sachet, and I've been dosing myself up on that. It's a sneaky way to get into the immune system so that this doesn't turn into a full-blown whatever virus or whatever it happens to be. So giving your baby the Baby F not only helps to support their immune system, keep their immune system in check, keep their intestines covered in beneficial bacteria, so that as any bad bacteria goes through, then it can just whoosh straight through, just like kind of going down a water slide. When you go down really quick, it just goes right through. You can't stop and hold on or anything like that. The momentum is just going right through. There's nowhere to stop. There's nowhere to stick your foot or your elbow in to slow you down. Same kind of thing with any bacteria that's going in when the whole of the intestines, the inside of the intestinal wall is covered in beneficial bacteria. So absolutely incredible for boosting the immune system and keeping your baby really safe from getting any type of food poisoning or anything like that. We don't want that to happen, obviously. Sometimes it does in some sort of belly type of situation. So you can add this. I don't love that it goes into the formula. Really, when it comes time to give this to your baby, then again, when you purchase it from sproutright.com, I'll go through with you how on earth you're going to give this to your baby, and so that you're confident in what you're doing, and you start slowly and you increase over time. So just a real quick recap. If you've got any questions, please do just quickly type them in there and I'll make sure that I answer them. If you're watching this video after it's been live, then still feel free to type in your questions. Check out sproutright.com, because I've got that blog on there with the link to the article in The Independent from the UK, and then that will also take you to the actual site that did a lot of this information to let us know about the toxicity, the lead, the arsenic, and all of these other things that have been found in not only baby foods, but also in baby formula. And we want to try and stay away from that. So when you're choosing the formula, make sure that you're reading the ingredients. Go back in the video, because I've just gone through it, or grab my book, because I go through so much in there about the infant formula and what it is that you're looking at. And then when you're choosing that, read the ingredient label. If it's not working, change it. change the formula. It's okay. You can go to Costco and buy their brand, Kirkland brand. Try that. See how that goes, if that sits okay with your baby or not. You can try another brand. In the blog post on sproutright.com, I do mention a few of the ones that I think have caused the least amount of reactions in baby. If you see constipation, again, check the ingredient list. If there's palm Olein oil in it, switch it. Go and find something else. Add in your own DHA, perhaps it's the cod liver oil. Add in your own probiotics, the HMF Baby F for this, and then you're good to go. There are millions and millions, probably billions of people who've been brought up on formula. So it can be a rather emotionally charged situation or topic to talk about with a parent, especially a mom who is just so desperate to breastfeed her baby, and for whatever reason that it hasn't gone well, maybe it's the baby, a tongue tie or the latch or something like that, and that you need to go and get a formula. Just be informed, and you're making the best decision for your baby under whatever circumstance it has, whatever is going on. So ditch the guilt as much as you possibly can, and know that with the changes that you make and with how you navigate the formula that you're offering to your baby, and you're making the best choice possible that sits well with them, everything else will fall into place. There's drainage that we can do to get anything out of their system. There's balancing, there's digestive enzymes, there's all sorts of things that I suggest and offer to clients when I'm doing a consultation. So don't put up with spit up and projectile vomiting and constipation. It's not normal. It doesn't need to be that way. So reach out to me, let's say, reach out to Sproutright if you have some questions or you need help or consultation or anything like that, or go to my book. Go online. There's a lot more information also on sproutright.com. So thank you so much for joining me today. And this really is just to start the conversation about choosing an infant formula, because it can be really tricky, and we'll support you in any way that we can so that you have the knowledge and the information to make amazing choices. All right, you're doing a great job as a parent, because this is new for all of us, and even if you have multiple children, each one of them is new and different, so that you have to learn how to navigate this new human at the same time. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you online or answering one of your emails, or like I said, just underneath this stream, you can add in your own question and I'll answer it. Have a beautiful day, and we'll talk soon.